So today is a beautiful winter day in Massachusetts, which is going to take us along the Westfield River and up to some stone arch bridges that were built for one of the first railroads to cross the Appalachian Mountains. So let's see what we find today. So Luna and I have come down to what in the summertime is the lower parking lot, but today we had to park up at the road, and we're going to walk this short path down here to the Westfield River. And to the double arch. So this will be our first set of bridges. I think this counts as two because of the two arches. There are 5 along the way. We'll stop and visit all of them, although we won't take a good look at one because you have to cross the active CSX tracks, and that's just not a safe thing to do. And along the way, we'll stop and learn a little bit about the men who built this set of railroad bridges to allow commerce to move between New York, to move between Albany and Boston. The first half mile or so, we're going to follow some roads that will lead us towards the CSX railroad tracks. But before we get there, we're going to peel off and head through the woods to explore the forests, and that'll bring us back to the arches and to the river. So here we go. Let's avoid the active train tracks and head out off into the woods. It's nice to come out after a fresh snow to see the tracks. These big ones, squirrel tracks. The hind feet are in front of the forefeet, which means that the squirrel is heading in the direction of where the hind feet are in front. So he's going this way, probably heading off to another old cache that he's left behind somewhere to get him through the winter. Well, we're about halfway from the trailhead to the next bridge, and we come across this really lovely little bridge over this pretty little stream. Cool thing about the bridge, it was built out of recycled plastics. You know, it kind of looks like steel girders, but they're actually plastic pieces. Kind of matches the theme of a railroad type of railroad. So, here's this beautiful little stream. Tumbling down from the hillside. Mouse tracks. As he jumps up the hillside, every so often, you'll see a little bit of a tail drag. And that's what tells us it's likely a mouse. So you've probably heard of Whistler's mother, the famous portrait by the artist James McNeill Whistler. Story goes that Whistler's model did not show on the day he was to paint, and so he asked his mother to literally sit in. And well, that became a really important painting in art history. But hey, have you heard of Whistler's father? George Washington Whistler was an engineer, and George Washington Whistler mapped out a railroad track to cross the Berkshires from Boston to Albany. And he designed this track, which people thought would be impossible to do, and it was given to a man named Alexander Burney to actually fulfill the dream of building a railroad across the Berkshires. Alexander Burney, of Scottish descent, lived in Stockbridge, Mass, and he came up here and he designed or built these stone arch bridges, that one of which I'm standing on today. Now, I should point out that behind me, the curve was very sharp and was very, very difficult for the trains to get across. And so today, behind me now, is the CSX tracks that still use the same gradient to get across. Now, back in the 1830s, when this railroad was built, the trains were of much, much lower power, and made it difficult for them to get across the mountains. But you know, today I'm standing on top of this bridge, but it'd be much, much better if we could see it from below, which is going to be a bit of a challenge. But let's see what we can do. Besides building bridges, Burney had to also build cuts through the hillsides to keep the grade at an acceptable level for the trains of the time. Here I'm passing through one of these cuts. Now, at the time, the workers only had metal rods and black powder to blast the rock. What they would do is, using a hardened metal rod, they would pound, twist, pound, twist, pound, and twist the rod until they were deep enough into the rock that they could pack the hole with black powder. Now, compared to dynamite, black powder is not that strong, but if you put in enough of it, tamp it down, seal it, and then blast it, you can cut through like this. Really pretty in the wintertime with all the water frozen on the shore, on the side. But if we look close, we should be able to find some of the marks left by the blasting process. So let's see if we can find some. And there we go. There we can see a hole. That was part of the blasting process. Over here as well, a small hole. And you see that tube running down. This is where the metal rod would have gone and probably bottomed out down here. Filled this all with blasting powder, black powder, and boom, this whole chunk of, well, this looks like schist. This whole chunk of schist would come off. There's another one over here. And as we look up, we can see others as we go up the hillside. This was a long and laborious and very, very dangerous process. Today, for us, it's a beautiful spot on a cold winter day. At least if you like icicles. There we go. We're going to be crossing another one of the arch bridges. Unlike the last one, this one's a little bit easier to get down from. So we'll go take a look at this bridge from below. So, checking out the structure from below is really a great thing to do. The stone is not local stone. It had to be brought in here. The local stone is just too crumbly. But look at that big retaining wall for the train tracks. And then these large buttresses to give support to the walls themselves. And then of course, there's the arch. Notice down at the corner of the arch, there's a little shelf. So the wall was built and a shelf was put in, and then large wooden scaffolding was built to create the arch. At the top of the arch, we see the Keystone, and, well, engineering 101. The weight of the train above pushes down on the arch. The Keystone distributes the weight through those stones all the way across to the buttresses and to the wall, and that weight holds the train up. So the arch itself is compressed under the weight of the train, but the weight of the stone built structure provides the counterbalance to that. Beautiful, beautiful looking birches. I think there's one more if we continue upriver. Hey, this is not a stone arch bridge. Although it is an arch bridge, it is a cement arch bridge. Right. This is the modern version. There was an arch bridge here, and if we look across the way, there are the remains of the arch bridge. Notice that it was hollow on the inside. The stone structure was built, and then the center, to add mass, was filled with just debris, mostly rock debris, to give the structure mass to hold up the trains that pass over it. This would have been the 6th arch bridge, but well, I guess this is the 6th arch bridge, a modern version of what Bernie built and Whistler designed back in the 1800s. So, 1830s, the train started coming through this area. Whistler, that's George Washington Whistler, the father, the engineer, was hired by Tsar Nicholas I of Russia to build what would eventually become the Trans-Siberian Railroad. And his engineering skills were in high demand. But trains got bigger, engineering got better, and eventually these train tracks were abandoned. And slowly the forest is recovering from this area. We see signs of birch trees, these white barked trees that are a pioneer species, one of the first to come in once the land is abandoned. But we also see maples and oaks and cherry trees, and eventually, if not maintained, the forest will take over this spot and hide any sign that Whistler's engineering had made transport across the mountains feasible. That's Luna, and I'm Tom for Two Naturalists.